Part 54. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 531. Chapter 531 Wake Up. The more Zhang Xiaoxiao thought about it, the more wrong he became. There was something weird about this matter. Professor Jia had no enmity against him, so why was he so targeted at him? Why not let yourself participate in the competition? General professors would like their students to be famous, to prove that the students they teach are outstanding talents, and to prove that their educational methods are recognized, but this professor chose to take the wrong approach. He actually doesn't want his students to be in the limelight. Besides, it doesn't matter to this professor that he is in the limelight. Even if you participate in the registration competition by yourself, you will have to go through elimination. Whether you can enter the finals and represent the school is still unknown, but this professor obviously does not want to be included in the competition list at all. This is the strangest thing. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked back at the professor's office. Suddenly, I discovered that Professor Jia's office was right across from Uncle Song's office. This weird feeling in my heart is even stronger. Could it be that Professor Jia and Uncle Song had something dirty to do, so they vented their anger on themselves? But that's not right. When I first met him, this person pretended to be an approachable, kind, and tolerant professor. Why didn't he even pretend to be today? The problem is that I keep asking myself for a paper and ask a sophomore student to come up with it. This is even more questionable. Only Uncle Song knew that he had written a paper, and no one else knew at all. But Uncle Song is in a coma now. Even if he takes over Uncle Song's work, it is impossible to take away his papers directly. The paper is not an assignment, and none of the other students have it. The files in Uncle Song's office should not be moved. So how did Professor Jia know that he could write a thesis? Uncle Song was already in a coma, so it was absolutely impossible for him to tell Professor Jia. So how did Professor Jia know? Zhang Xiaoxiao felt as if there was a thin veil covering the matter, and he just couldn't see through it. Zhang Xiaoxiao directly took the registration form again, filled it out, and sent it directly to the principal's office. Dean Zhang just came back from outside and saw Zhang Xiaoxiao delivering the registration form to his office. What do you think of yourself? As their nanny? What's going on? Why did Zhang Xiaoxiao send me the registration form? Dean Zhang called the Registration General Affairs Office. The section chief of the General Affairs Office must know what is going on. Could it be that they deliberately made things difficult for Zhang Xiaoxiao? That's why this girl sent the registration form to her, otherwise this girl would never go to her office due to her temperament. When General Affairs Section Chief Li Zixin heard this, he was stunned and his head started to buzz. Why did this matter bring so much trouble to the dean? Dean, I didn't know that Zhang Xiaoxiao sent the registration form to you. It was her tutor, Professor Jia, who called me and said that Zhang Xiaoxiao would not be allowed to participate in this competition. Let her first academics were the top priority, and I thought he had already communicated with Zhang Xiaoxiao, so I withdrew Zhang Xiaoxiao's registration form. Who knew that this kid would actually send the registration form to you again? It seems that Professor Jia did not discuss it with Zhang Xiaoxiao. Li Zixin did not take the blame for this. When Jiazhou called him, he felt it was inappropriate. After all, what does a student participating in the competition have to do with his tutor? Making this call gives the impression that the tutor is preventing the student from participating in the competition. In fact, teachers and principals of schools encourage students to actively participate in this kind of competition. After all, to cultivate a new generation of talents, students must face various challenges so that they can get more training. Especially Zhang Xiaoxiao is a famous figure in the school and his academic performance is not bad. It is a pity not to participate in the competition. Dean Zhang paused and said, Professor Jia? Who is Professor Jia? When did our school gain a Professor Jia? Dean Zhang really didn't know about Jiazhou becoming a professor. At that stage, he was out for a meeting. When the school was in an uproar because of this incident, he didn't know about it. I heard about it when I came back. It is said that there is a teacher in their school whose paper was published in the Lancet. I thought it was an honor at the time, but I didn't expect that the teacher of the Lancet was actually Professor Jia. He didn't connect the two things together. The main reason was that Jiazhou had always been in people's impression as the kind of person who lives his life without any achievements. How can people think of such a person when he suddenly shines? Professor Jia is Jiazhou, the nephew of Vice President Jia. He was the one who published a paper in the Lancet not long ago. Li Zixin wanted to laugh. If Jiazhou heard this, he would definitely feel that their dean was deliberately belittling him. Dean Zhang suddenly realized, it's him. I really didn't expect that Jiazhou would have such an achievement. Okay, don't mind his business. Take Zhang Xiaoxiao's registration form back from me and sign it up for Zhang Xiaoxiao. In any case, we should respect students' right to choose, and no professor has the right to hinder students. Develop. Zhang Xiaoxiao's registration went smoothly. Jiazhou was getting more and more angry in the office. He was thinking about how to deal with Zhang Xiaoxiao. He must let Zhang Xiaoxiao know how good he is. Otherwise, what will he do in the future? It is so difficult to write a paper by himself. You can't just publish a paper in the Lancet and then become a coward. When the time comes, no matter how others see him, they may really think that he hired another gunman to do it for him. Even for the sake of my own face, I must write another paper. In this case, it will be the same thing whether Zhang Xiaoxiao himself uses it or not. It doesn't matter even if you just throw it aside. Jiazhou got up and went to find Li Zixin. As soon as I walked out of the office, I heard a surprise sound coming from the distance. Lao Wu just called from the hospital and said that Professor Song has woken up. I didn't expect that a vegetative person could actually wake up. This is great news. It's such a big happy event. I quickly went to inform Dean Zhang that we have to go see Professor Song. Jia stumbled on his left foot and almost fell. My heart felt like a drum, my whole heart was pounding, almost jumping out of my chest. What to do? Song Qingyun actually woke up. He was obviously in a vegetative state. How could he wake up? It only took a few days for him to wake up. What should I do if Song Qingyun wakes up? Song Qingyun saw herself knocking him down. Jiazhou packed up the things in the office. He didn't want to sit here and wait for death. He had to leave quickly. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. The truth comes to light. Zhang Xiaoxiao, Wang Huan, and Zhang Sun are discussing the rules of this competition. She has already obtained the official participation certificate. It can be seen that it is more effective to send the registration form to the dean. At least Professor Jia can no longer hinder her eyes. But at a glance, he saw Jiazhou hurriedly holding his bag and walking out. Zhang Xiaoxiao felt that Jiazhou didn't feel like he was going home normally. I won't tell you anymore, I have something to do. Zhang Xiaoxiao said goodbye. Wang Huan refused. Zhang Xiaoxiao, why do you do this every time? What's the matter with you? Every time you say half of your words, you leave. Isn't this bullying? I have to follow you no matter what you say today. You follow me. I don't believe you. Why are you so anxious? Wang Huan has been very protective of Zhang Xiaoxiao since he was dealt with by Zhang Xiaoxiao. Zhang Xiaoxiao was extremely anxious. To tell you the truth, Professor Jia is in front of me, and I want to follow him. You don't know that Professor Jia has been giving me little shoes to wear recently. I want to participate in the competition, but he actually withdrew all my registration forms. I just feel that he behaves strangely, and I want to see what he is doing. When someone gives me little shoes to wear, I have to catch Professor Jia, otherwise I won't even have the ability to resist. Professor Jia said that I would not even be able to graduate. Wang Huan's face changed. This Jiazhou has no real talent or knowledge at all. I didn't like him before, but now he dares to give you little shoes to wear. Come on, I will go with you to find out the reason. I hate this kind of thing. Good at. Zhang Sun smiled and said, then let's go together. Your old song hasn't arrived yet. Otherwise, if he is here, we will still need the two of us. You, a girl, can follow you. If anything happens, then no, it's better for us two boys to accompany you. Ever since Professor Song was attacked in their school, almost everyone is in danger. He never goes out alone, usually in groups of 3 or 5. All to ensure safety. Zhang Xiaoxiao was not careless. Okay, let's go together, but don't say anything, and I'll take a look. What is our Professor Jia going to do, and why is he in such a hurry? I hope I remember this time correctly. There is another class in the afternoon. Professor Jia is leaving now and won't have that class in the afternoon. As soon as this was said, everyone felt a little strange. As soon as they followed Professor Jia out of the school gate, they saw a police car parked at the gate of the school, its siren blaring as it passed by. Why did the police come to our school? Wang Huan is strange. Are you here to catch the murderer who attacked Professor Song last time? Zhang Sun expressed his suspicion. The biggest incident that ever happened in their school was the attack on Professor Song. The reason why the police came was definitely because of this incident. The two of them focused their attention on the police car, but Zhang Xiaoxiao never moved his eyes away from Jiazhou. He clearly saw that the moment Jiazhou saw the police car, his whole body was shaken. Shivering. Then it was normal for him to cross the road after leaving the school gate. The moment he saw the police, he actually turned left and walked directly into the back alley. He didn't want to run into the police. This was clearly a guilty conscience. Zhang Xiaoxiao greeted the two people. Hurry up and follow. This Professor Jia is not right. When he saw the police just now, he was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he turned around and walked into the alley. You didn't look at the tigers under your feet. You were walking so fast that you wanted to step on them. Hot Wheels. Zhang Xiaoxiao's words attracted the attention of Wang Huan and Zhang Sun. Turning his head, he saw Professor Jia walking in a hurry, with a pale face, and went straight into the alley. The sight of him made him feel guilty. The two men rushed forward without saying a word. Stop! This shout was frightening, and the sound of their footsteps chasing after them was also heard. Jiazhou didn't even have time to look back and see who it was. He thought it was the police chasing him. He threw away the leather bag in his hand and ran forward. Unfortunately, he was a weak scholar. He didn't do much exercise on weekdays. He just ran a few steps and ran out of breath. Wang Huan and Zhang Sun rushed up from behind and gave him a shove. Knock someone down. It's not me, it's not me. I didn't hurt Song Qingyun. Wang Huan and Zhang Sun wiped the white sweat from their heads. Oh, what a surprise. The police didn't notice this at first, but Wang Huan and his actions were too quick, and Jiazhou's voice was too loud. Attracted attention instantly. Jiazhou felt sad and angry when he saw that he had been frightened by two students. When he saw Zhang Xiaoxiao standing by and watching, he couldn't help but feel resentful. Song Qingyun woke up. Right? At noon, Xiao Hui fed her husband today's portion of peach wine, massaging the muscles on his arms and nagging at the same time. The doctor has advised that you should often talk about some good memories from the past to stimulate the patient's subconscious mind. Then I felt one of my hands being grabbed. Xiao Hui almost cried. Song Qingyun opened his eyes and stared at Xiao Hui intently. Thanks a lot. No words can ever compare to these 4 words he said. After various inspections, it was proved that Song Qingyun had indeed woken up, and that he was in very good condition after waking up. As soon as the police heard that Song Kingyun had woken up, they immediately rushed to take notes. There was nothing they could do to prevent the victim from waking up. If the police didn't show up, how could they catch the perpetrator? Song Kingyun immediately surrendered Jiazo. That was the scene above, where the police went to the school to arrest someone. As a result, Jiazo was arrested due to an accidental collision by Zhang Xiaoxiao and others. Surprise overnight review. After the review, Jiazo confessed to the facts of his crime. This crime is punishable by death. In this era, this is the end of a gun. When Song Kingyun appeared on campus a week later, everyone was stunned. They just knew that the professor was awake, but they did not expect that the professor would recover so quickly. Of course, the most shocking thing is that the so-called Professor Jia actually plagiarized the student's thesis results and took it as his own. Only then did the previous scene, the frightening attacker who shocked the campus, finally surfaced, and everyone felt at ease. Zhang Xiaoxiao realized now that he didn't expect such a thing to happen. One of your own papers can lead to a murder case. If her peach wine hadn't worked, I'm afraid Song Kingyun would have become a vegetative person in his life. Professor Jia fled. She can now be brought to justice, thanks to her ancestral secret recipe. I didn't see Jiao Hui and Song Kingyun's faces full of love when they saw Zhang Xiaoxiao, and they wished they could treat her like their own daughters. There is no way to repay this life-saving grace. This is their niece-in-law. How can I repay this life-saving grace? If someone else gives you money or a gift, it's okay to thank them. But this is my own family, any words of thanks are a bit pale. Jiao Hui knew best that it was just a few days of drinking peach wine that produced such an effect. Zhang Xiaoxiao's ancestral secret recipe was really surprising. Zhang Xiaoxiao also came up with data that the amount of peaches needed for a vegetative state is 2 whole peaches. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 533. Chapter 533 Rabbit's Fate. The 6th Medical University Exchange Competition officially opened. Zhang Xiaoxiao, Wang Huan, Zhang Suan, and 7 other students represented their first medical university in the competition. The competition is a 3-in-2 elimination system. Those who can enter the competition have actually gone through the qualifiers. Basically, only the top 10 in the qualifiers can enter the competition. At this time, Zhang Xiaoxiao, Wang Huan, Zhang Suan, and Mu Feng were in a group, participating in the surgical practice competition. Zhang Xiaoxiao, a sophomore, barely cooperated with Wang Huan. Zhang Sun and Mu Feng represented the senior group and were the most powerful contestants. Wang Huan comforted Zhang Xiaoxiao, "Don't worry, today's game is not very difficult. Last time I saw you were so powerful for the first time under the knife. This game is just trivial. It's just a kidney removal technique, it won't be a problem for you. Zhang Sun and Mu Feng are going to have a liver transplant, which is much more difficult than ours. You really don't have to worry." He had seen Zhang Xiaoxiao perform suturing during his first surgery, and Zhang Xiaoxiao did a great job. Hands did not shake, eyes did not blink, and there was no vomiting at all. The suturing operation was completed steadily. I have never seen a student like Zhang Xiaoxiao who was sutured for the first time. The calmness seemed to have been practiced thousands of times, especially the wounds were stitched flawlessly. It makes it impossible to find anything wrong. Zhang Xiaoxiao curled her lips. Was she nervous? It was obvious that the person next to me started to chatter because he was nervous. Song Moding doesn't know how he is doing now. Song Moding didn't even care about her place to study abroad a month ago, and suddenly said she wanted to go out. No matter how she asked, Song Moding didn't say what he was going to do. It means to do a favor to a friend. It takes half a year. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked again but didn't say anything. Go resolutely. After two people got married, it was the first time they were separated for so long. Zhang Xiaoxiao really missed Comrade Song, and Comrade Song teased him a lot before leaving. Also asked her for a bottle of peach wine. Zhang Xiaoxiao guessed that this job would have huge risks. It was even life-threatening, so he cooperated and put the peach wine into aluminum kettles to ensure that they would not be broken and that Song Moding could carry it with him. She didn't know what Song Moding was going to do, but Song Moding was not a rash or reckless person, so if he didn't say it, it must be because he couldn't, so let's not say it. Zhang Xiaoxiao understands that even couples need personal space, not to mention that before Song Moding jumped in the queue, he was a member of a mysterious and unpredictable military force. What he is going to do now, is it for his friends or for an unspeakable mission? I shouldn't even ask. The only thing he can do is to give her numerous warnings, telling him that no matter what happens, he must contact her. There is a tacit understanding between the two of them. Although they have never pierced the window paper, they both know that the secrets in Zhang Xiaoxiao can save people's lives, and they can survive as long as they don't die. The night before Song Moding left, he hugged his wife tightly and tossed her all night long. In the end, she was so indulgent that Zhang Xiaoxiao suspected that Song Moding really had the intention of leaving and never coming back, right? Fortunately, Song Moding could see that Zhang Xiaoxiao's worries were revealed to some extent, and it was for a certain secret mission. He must go. That is the mission that I will attack if there is a call. Zhang Xiaoxiao could only pretend that he didn't know anything, but he was somewhat worried in his heart. When it is Zhang Xiaoxiao's and Wang Huan's turn, they all have the same qualifications in the same group, which can reduce the unfairness caused by differences. Zhang Xiaoxiao and Wang Huan entered the operating room. Simulated operating room with 5 beds arranged side by side at the same time. 5 surgeries will be performed here at the same time. Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others were lucky, they were the last one. Why is it said that I am lucky? The first operating table and the last operating table have relatively less pressure, while the 3 operating tables in the middle are squeezed. Relatively speaking, you will feel more panicked when there are others around you. Wang Huan raised his head proudly. I found out that I'm in the same group as you. This is good luck. It's a good start for us. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled. Although Wang Huan is nominally his senior, in fact Zhang Xiaoxiao is not afraid of the senior at all. In her mind, her medical attainments and achievements are far higher than those of Wang Huan. There is no other way. Who allowed us to study for decades more? Even the experience is much richer than that of ordinary people. It is indeed a bit overwhelming to spend 2 lifetimes fighting with others. The problem is that she is a senior. Some staff members have directly brought the rabbits up for them. This time, they used little white rabbits instead of little white mice. Anyone who stands on this operating table and performs actual operations will not have any feeling at all whether he is a white mouse or a white rabbit in front of him. Wang Huan believed that his actual operating experience was much higher than that of Zhang Xiaoxiao. He must be the chief surgeon for this operation, while Zhang Xiaoxiao could only be regarded as a medical assistant. Xiaoxiao, don't be afraid. I know you don't have much practical experience. You have only done a few practical surgeries in your sophomore year. However, you can just be my assistant on the side. You are right to listen to me. Wang Huan really regards himself as a senior. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled, being treated as a novice for the first time. It felt good to be cared for. Okay, senior, don't worry, I will definitely not hinder your operation. Even if she is an assistant, she is definitely the best assistant. The referees have already taken their places, and the judges have already been in the outer room through the glass windows, watching each of their operating tables. Seeing that the students had calm expressions and were not impatient or irritable, everyone felt quite satisfied. The quality of the students in this class was very high. It could be seen that these students were not impatient at all when facing such a surgical competition. The 5 academies add up to 5 teams competing in the competition. The bell announces the start of the game. Wang Huan smoothly opened the belly of the little rabbit with a scalpel. Just when I was about to open my mouth and say a certain number of scalpels, a scalpel of exactly the same model has been handed to him. Wang Huan raised his eyes and glanced at Zhang in surprise. The little girl was concentrating on the little rabbit on the operating table, and all the scalpels on hand were neatly rehearsed. You can tell by looking at the arrangement of the scalpels. This girl knew exactly what she was going to do next. He almost arranged the knives in the order of his own surgery, and he couldn't help but be secretly surprised. He thought that Zhang Xiaoxiao was only learning simple surgical operations in his sophomore year, and at most it was suturing. I didn't expect this girl to be hiding something secret. It seems that she must have learned a lot from their boss Meng secretly. You can tell the clues by looking at her proficiency. I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed in my heart. I thought that this time I could finally be a serious senior and show off my medical skills. But now I realized that it seemed like a slap in the face and my face hurt a little. Senior is attentive. Zhang Xiaoxiao reminded Wang Huan that he should not take any operation lightly. This is the experience he has accumulated over the years. It was also taught to me by my teacher back then. Surgery is about human life, whether it is the life of a rabbit or a human, it is still a life. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 534. Chapter 534 Dilemma. Wang Huan hurriedly held his breath, focused on the rabbit in front of him, and carefully began to perform his surgery. Although he really wanted to follow Zhang Xiaoxiao bravely just now, otherwise Zhang Xiaoxiao would be the chief surgeon. Looking at Zhang Xiaoxiao's calm expression and full aura, he is completely more suitable to be the chief surgeon than himself. But there is still some selfishness in my heart. I want to show off in the competition and be noticed by major teachers. I need this kind of attention more than Zhang Xiaoxiao. After all, Zhang Xiaoxiao is only a sophomore, and now he is about to face his senior year. This is a critical year. Slightly disappointed with my character. When faced with interests and honors, people are often selfish. They talk about Zhang Xiaoxiao as a friend, but in fact, when faced with competition for interests, they still can't help but tilt the balance to their side. Zhang Xiaoxiao was completely unaware of this person's psychological activities. She carefully observed Wang Huan's surgical procedures. What Wang Huan did is actually no different from what any student from a medical university does. It can be considered as satisfactory. If there are no mistakes, the operation is the best. Wang Huan should have laid a very solid foundation, so it was obvious during this operation that his fingers were steady and he was not panicked at all when he opened the abdominal cavity and performed the resection. And he is very skilled in the position. I think Wang Huan himself has done a lot of this kind of practice in private. The students next to me are making a little noise. How, isn't it a kidney removal operation? The right kidney is completely necrotic, and the kidney on the other side is also diseased in this case. Even if one kidney is removed, the other side will not be able to maintain the recovery of the rabbit. Don't worry about recovery or not now. The competition requirement is to remove the kidney. Just remove it as soon as possible. Don't talk nonsense. The more time you waste, the lower the score you will get in the end. The low comments next to him made Wang Huan a little uneasy. The competition will definitely not be that simple. If you let them operate a normal rabbit, it will not be difficult. He said it was a competition, how could there be no requirements? Opening the abdominal cavity, Wang Huan was dumbfounded. Zhang Xiaoxiao frowned when he saw Wang Huan didn't move for a long time. What on earth is Wang Huan doing? Opening the abdominal cavity without moving is a taboo in surgery. It is irresponsible to the patient. Step forward and remind Wang Huan in a low voice. Wang Huan, The abdominal cavity has been open for 2 minutes. Wang Huan pointed to his abdominal cavity. I also know it's a bit overtime, but take a look for yourself, it's not what I want to do. This rabbit only has one kidney. If the kidney is removed, the rabbit will have no kidney. How can it live without a kidney? Zhang Xiaoxiao then discovered that the rabbit in front of them had only one kidney in its abdominal cavity. Under normal circumstances, mammals have organ habits close to humans and have 2 kidneys, but the rabbit in front of me is obviously malformed and has only one kidney. Moreover, there were many lesions and necrosis on the only kidney, indicating that the rabbit was actually terminally ill before it was sent. Wang Huan couldn't remove the knife at all. No wonder Wang Huan's face changed. I'm afraid all the big guys who set up the competition questions are sick. The questions for this competition are too weird. How much effort was put into finding these little white rabbits for them to use as experiments? Where can I find a deformed rabbit? Wang Huan felt like he wanted to curse. His practical classes are definitely more than Zhang Xiaoxiao's. The problem is that in this situation, when the necrotic kidneys are removed, there are not many kidneys left. According to the current operation, the rabbit will not survive at all. Not coming down. In other words, in fact, whether they operated or not operated, it was a failure. Because the purpose of surgery, no matter what kind of surgery you perform, or how exquisite the surgery is, what is required is survival rate. If the survival rate cannot be achieved, then the surgery is actually meaningless. Wang Huan was a little at a loss because he couldn't operate on the rabbit's necrotic organs. Because the necrotic part is too large, removal may affect the good part. Even if he wanted to let his mentors see his surgical accomplishments with a superb operation, he couldn't do it. Indeed, who would have known that the rabbit's kidneys had now changed to such an extent? Zhang Xiaoxiao picked up the scalpel and said in a low voice, "Do as I say, and we will cooperate." This rabbit's kidney is indeed very difficult. If it were not difficult, it would not be possible for the organizing committee to specially find it for them to operate. It is not just to make things difficult for them as students, but also to see how these students can cope with such emergencies. What is important is not how skilled you are in performing this surgery, but your ability to deal with such difficult problems, and even ensure the success of the operation despite such difficult problems. This is the most important thing. Wang Huan picked up the scalpel with some frustration. Although this was a competition, he knew that he couldn't give up halfway. As a medical student, they should persevere in the face of various emergencies. This is the psychological quality they have cultivated. But faced with such a difficult problem, he was inevitably a little bit shocked. Make a slash in the direction of 1 o'clock. The entrance only cuts 1 millimeter at most, yes. Once you reach this depth, you peel it off gently. It's done very well, and the technique is very professional. Yes, you can see it now. The necrotic part must have been peeled off. In fact, the necrotic part is only on the surface. The calm and steady voice brings a sense of tranquility to people, like warm lake water tightly surrounding Wang Huan's restless heart. Gradually, Wang Huan's impatient mind was finally moved by Jiang's small voice. Concentrating entirely on the operation under his hands, he began to enter the state and commanded step by step. Zhang Xiaoxiao always handed him the tools he needed in his hand at the first time, and commanded him steadily, telling him what to do next. Various possibilities that would arise were listed one by one, and Wang Huan suddenly felt as if he was in a class, a professional anatomy class personally guided by a professional instructor. Each step was listed in detail in front of him, as if he had already had a picture of the entire surgical operation in his mind, and the picture was so clear. With his step-by-step operation, the lesion on the rabbit's kidney was finally peeled away. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, the lesions were not what he saw with his eyes. The necrotic parts remained in many places only on the surface. As long as these necrotic parts were peeled off, most of the kidneys could actually be preserved. The judges behind the large glass window couldn't help but nod. This young man can do it. Look at the methodical operation. Faced with such a situation, he did not rush to conclusions. He actually paid attention to the propriety when operating the knife. And you see, he performed the operation very well. Such an operation, for him to be able to do this at his age is simply perfect. And the other student cooperated tacitly. Look at how accurate and fast every knife is handed out. The time is just right, not a minute more, not a second less. The rating of a combination like theirs should be at least 9.5 points. Other judges couldn't help but nod. They are students from the first medical university, but we didn't expect that this combination would surprise us. Although there are many amazing students at the first medical university, we didn't expect that the problem this time would be solved so easily by them. It makes me admire their teachers a little bit. How do you usually teach? For them to be so calm in the face of this situation is such a good idea. Many people praised it, saying there was nothing they could do. These judges were all leaders in the medical field. For them, being able to find good seedlings is also their biggest reliance in recruiting them to their respective hospitals in the future. The country's medical community is in need of talents now. The older generation's talents have limited abilities and limited knowledge. Only young people can keep up, and can we hope to revitalize the country's medical industry. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 535. Chapter 535 Catch the Thief. The man wearing a peaked cap was wandering near Zhang Xiaoxiao Primary School. He just saw Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others taking a car to participate in the competition. If nothing else, it would take about a few hours. He had plenty of time and could search the house upside down and find anything he needed. If he can't find it, his boss has instructed him not to act rashly and alert the snake. Maybe it was in a safe, but people are usually not that careful with their valuables, and they just hide them somewhere in their home that they think is safe. He returned to the car, took out the map he just bought, and found the street where Zhang Xiaoxiao lived. He can arrive in 15 minutes at most, leaving plenty of time to complete the task. He drove through neighboring communities, looking to see if any neighbors were planting flowers or weeding in the yard. These houses are small and have long since passed their prime. He only saw some children playing, which showed that most of the residents were older, and most of the children had already started families, or were newlyweds who bought their first house and did not have children yet. The absence of a bicycle in the corridor shows that people have gone to work. This has advantages and disadvantages. There are not many people at home in the community, but those who are at home are all elderly people. Elderly people are very nosy. They know who is a resident of this community and who is a stranger. They have nothing to do but look out the window to pass the time. If anyone sees him, the trick is to look ordinary, as if he has a right to be there. It would be better if no one saw him. He is good at hiding himself, so the boss picked him for this job. He walked around until he found a remote basketball court. No one was exercising here at this time, and the car was parked as far away as possible. He left the car there and quickly walked 3 streets to Jiang's small house. When he reached her street, he began to walk around to the backyard, using shrubs and fences as cover. Climb up the drain pipe quietly. Just now he called Zhang Xiaoxiao's home phone number, but no one answered, which proved that no one was at home. It is said that there is a child at home, but the couple is not at home at all during the day. The child will definitely be sent to the elderly or to a nursery, so the whole house will be empty. Entering someone else's home is a trivial matter. The lock on the door was too strong for a determined 10-year-old to open, and it only took him a few seconds to open it. The sound of a child was heard next door, and he didn't want to alarm anyone. God, people can't imagine how simple this is. He first walked around the house and checked the most obvious hiding places, the cold room of the refrigerator, the top of the cupboard, and under the chair. He didn't know exactly what the notebook he was looking for looked like. No one knew. The boss said just find a notepad, it will be old and dirty. There are no dirty old notepads in obvious hiding places. Cap began to systematically rummage through the contents of the house. He went through every drawer, pulling out each drawer to see if there was anything hidden in the back or at the bottom. He felt the curtains to see if anything was sewn at the bottom, and looked at all the chair cushions and pillows for signs of heavy stitching or unusual bulges. He didn't damage anything, it was a malicious amateur's trick. The true art is to enter and leave a house without leaving a trace of having been there. He did not destroy any furniture, but after inspecting it, he returned everything to its original place. He was quite efficient. In less than 2 hours, he had completed the search, but he had not yet found the notepad. Unless that woman is really smart, but the house is so big and there is no extra hiding place, unless they create a secret room, it is absolutely impossible to miss it. Convinced that the notepad was not in the house, he immediately left the house and returned to the car with his usual precautions. No one knows anyone has been here. Tang Yuan raised his head suddenly, grabbed the plastic knife in his hand, and gestured to Mr. Song. "Grandpa, there is a thief." Mr. Song smiled. His great-grandson recently fell in love with the game of police catching thieves. "Every time I pick up this big knife, I have to play this game. Of course, I am the thief every time, and my great-grandson is the policeman who catches the thief." Mr. Song got up and ran away quickly. Although he was exhausted from playing this game often, he had no choice. The child liked him and was reluctant to break his heart. Tang Yuan stood there and pointed to the house opposite. "Thief." Mr. Song made a voice from behind the door, "Come and catch me." Old Mrs. Song looked at her old man and the glutinous rice in a funny way, fighting for fun. "I'm afraid this kid will be a policeman when he grows up. He has been playing this game since he was a child. He has never been able to stop it. And people can always catch you. You are a thief, but you have no sense of accomplishment. It's your fault for the future." Once on the battlefield, he was in the flames of war, and even a child couldn't deal with him with such skills. Mr. Song held his waist. "How old am I, and you still let me come and go in the flames of war? That was when I was young. If you have the ability, just play with this kid for a while, and you will know. Don't look at his short calves, this guy runs faster than a rabbit." Speaking of which, Tang Yuan poked out his head and stared at Grandma and Grandpa cutely. He pulled Mr. Song hard and insisted on pulling him out of the door. Mr. Song helplessly followed Tang Yuan to the door. "You brat, aren't you trying to catch the thief with the police? Why did you run out again?" Tang Yuan looked at the door and was stunned for a while. The thief ran away. Mr. Song was speechless. This guy hasn't given up yet. Okay, the thief ran away. You should go back with your great-grandfather quickly. Do you miss your parents? Right, don't worry, your mother will only go to the competition in a few days, and she will come back after the competition. Your mother has agreed to call you tonight. You will be staying at your great-grandfather's house these days. By the way, your Grandpa Wu and Mrs. Wu will come over soon. Your Grandma Wu said she would make your favorite jujube cake for you." The old man picked up Tang Yuan and carried him back to the house. Old Mrs. Song was holding a bowl of egg custard. "Come on, little glutinous rice balls, it's time to have lunch." Tang Yuan climbed onto the chair slowly. He was a very independent child. Looked at the door with some disappointment. Why didn't Grandpa understand what he said? There was a thief, but the thief ran away without taking anything. Soon Tang Yuan forgot about this and started eating egg custard happily. The arrival of Mr. Wu and Mrs. Wu immediately made the family lively. They came specifically to take glutinous rice to the zoo. The 4 old people took the glutinous rice and took the car directly to the zoo. No one knew that such an episode had ever happened in the family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 536. Chapter 536 Uneasiness. Wang Huan was surprised to hear that he and Zhang Xiaoxiao won their group in first place and could advance to the next knockout round. Xiaoxiao, did you hear that we won, and we entered the next round as the first in the group? Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled and said, Senior, I heard this. This is all your fault. Wang Huan is not that thick-skinned, and he dare not take the credit. At that moment of impatience and fear, Zhang Xiaoxiao's calm and quiet voice brought solace to his soul. Otherwise, how could he have performed a flawless operation without Zhang Xiaoxiao's guidance? I'm afraid that half of the rabbit's kidneys will be cut off by myself with the first cut. Looking at the rabbit that was able to raise its head, Wang Huan himself knew that the rabbit had survived. It is not certain whether you can live a long life, and it is not certain whether complications will occur. But at least after the operation, the rabbit is doing pretty well. Don't laugh at me. It would be weird if I didn't know that I could complete this operation without you. This rabbit would have died in my hands long ago. Wang Huan admires Zhang Xiaoxiao from the bottom of his heart. In the past, I still felt that I was a senior. After all, I had learned much more than Zhang Xiaoxiao. I felt that I had a slight sense of superiority, and I could show off as a senior. But now this last trace of superiority has been completely broken by Zhang Xiaoxiao. Senior, even if I am directing from the side, you still need to be very skilled. Otherwise, this operation cannot be so perfect. The two of us can only be regarded as tacit cooperation. No one's role can be lacking. It should be said that we both it's a very harmonious combination. Zhang Xiaoxiao will not take all the credit. As a novice, Wang Huan's ability to complete the operation so calmly is inseparable from his daily medical practice and accumulation, which he will never ignore. As an experienced teacher who has been a tutor for countless students, Zhang Xiaoxiao knows how to inspire his students, and he also knows how to motivate his own students. When they changed their clothes and went out, they bumped into the judge-teacher opposite. Hello teachers. Zhang Xiaoxiao and Wang Huan were very respectful. Respect teachers, especially their medical students. A teacher is like a guiding light. You are Wang Huan. The young man did a good job in the surgery. He seems to be thoughtful and not arrogant. He can be so calm during the surgery and observe the cases in such detail. It is rare. The young man will have a lot to do in the future. Wang Huan, you did a very good job in the surgery today. Our judges gave you the highest score. Work hard and you will have a bright future. Yes, work hard, we all think highly of you. Several big bosses who were originally considered cold actually smiled and greeted Wang Huan like a spring breeze. Wang Huan was a little flattered. Even though his elders were there, he was not afraid of these things when he left the house. Medical big shot. The problem is that this kind of attitude is completely different from the usual cold and straight-faced attitude. Who doesn't want to be noticed by others like a star holding the moon? This feeling makes Wang Huan a little bit mixed feelings. He opened his mouth and wanted to explain that Zhang Xiaoxiao was responsible for this, but before he could say anything, several bosses patted Zhang Xiaoxiao's shoulders again. Zhang Xiaoxiao, you are so good. We didn't see you perform the surgery today. It's really a pity. Just looking at your proficiency, we can tell that you are confident about this surgery. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. With such a tacit understanding, it seems that the two of you have been able to achieve what you are today at such a young age. The hard work put in is absolutely unimaginable by others. This compliment really makes people excited. They can see the details that they can't see. This is the vision of these big guys. Wang Huan excitedly grabbed Zhang Xiao's arm, but before he could formulate an impassioned and humble word, the boss left. Wang Huan opened his mouth, his eyes full of regret, regret and regret. He hasn't shown himself yet. Why? Why do you feel stupid when others praise you? Xiao Xiao, Xiao Xiao, look at us, it's the first time I've been praised by so many people in public, I'm a little excited, Xiao Xiao. Wang Huan was a little incoherent. Zhang Xiao Xiao was a little hurt by Wang Huan's hold. Wang Huan, let go. Wang Huan was shocked to realize that he had lost control. Who made him too excited? Xiao Xiao, but tomorrow. Don't be too excited, there is still tomorrow's game, and you can go further with a normal mind. Zhang Xiao Xiao patted Wang Huan on the shoulder. The child was so excited that he could hardly control himself. There is still a game tomorrow. Zhang Xiao Xiao went home to look after the children. Song Moding is not here, so she has to take care of Tang Yuan. Out of the school gate, it was a cloudless and sunny day. The heat of summer was gradually gone, but the chill of winter had not yet come. Zhang Xiao Xiao stood at the gate, but she felt uneasy. She didn't know why looking at the blue sky made her freeze on the spot. She looked up at the sky as if she had never seen the sky before. She has indeed never seen such a blue sky. She had never seen this shade of blue. No sky should be so deeply and impossibly blue. But on this sunny day, the fog between heaven and earth dissipated, giving her a feeling of being closer to the edge of the universe than ever before, so close that she felt like she was about to be sucked into the endless blue. Her eyes were dazzled. She seemed to have seen something, but she had not looked directly at the sun just now, so she thought that the sky must be brighter than she imagined because her eyes needed to adapt. She blinked, and then took a closer look. That thing is both real and imaginary, it is a shadow. That was the shadow of Song Moding struggling to move forward with a group of people, and it seemed to disappear in a blink of an eye. The blue sky suddenly pressed down, as if it was about to swallow her, and she stared at the scene dumbfounded. Zhang Xiao Xiao chuckled. He must have been hallucinating recently because he was worried about Song Moding. How is it possible to see Song Moding? Thinking of Song Moding, his face popped into her mind, accompanied by an unusual uneasiness. Everyone talks about telepathy, but something happened to Song Moding? Won't. Zhang Xiao Xiao then shook his head. Song Moding had prepared peach wine himself, so he would not die as a last resort. Surely nothing will happen. But she just knew something was happening, but she wasn't sure what it was. She felt that she was very worthless. Song Moding had only been away for a while, but she was so distracted by a man. This is not her. But it is always difficult to suppress the uneasiness in my heart. That night, when Zhang Xiao Xiao hugged her round, white body and fell asleep, her turbulent mood finally calmed down. Song Moding, come back quickly. Don't let anything happen. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 537. Chapter 537, Shot. It was extremely cold in the simple hut. Although the only window and the loosely fitting door were covered with blankets to block light leakage, the cold air still seeped in through the gaps. Song Moding breathed on his fingers to warm them up. He only allowed the team members to light a battery-powered light in the room, and his breath made a thin white mist in the dim light. Song Moding focused all his attention on checking the equipment. He can push away all things other than work from his mind, and his ability to concentrate is awe-inspiring and amazing. The team members have seen that level of concentration in one person, Captain Song Moding. Because they work as special team members, mainly working for special units. Song Moding is calm, stable and capable. Need to hit a hard-to-reach target. He is a sharpshooter who can shoot through the enemy at 100 steps. Need to blow up a building somewhere? Just ask Song Moding. His attitude is not aggressive, in fact, he is very low-key. but his teammates could tell from his eyes and his lack of expression that he was deadly dangerous. In this small factory hidden deep in the cold mountainous area, no one would have thought that a batch of biological agents was being manufactured here and was destined to be shipped to the headquarters of a secret organization in a certain country. Although air attacks are the quickest and most effective way to destroy factories, they can also trigger international crises and disrupt the delicate balance of power between countries here. No one wants a total war. They must not let these people succeed. They want to stop these people's conspiracy. Without the support behind a certain country, no one would be so bold. Since air attacks were not feasible, the factory had to be destroyed from the ground, which meant that the explosives not only had to be installed manually, but also had to be powerful. Songmoding not only planned to blow up the factory with plastic explosives, but also planned to use the fuel and catalysts in the factory to ensure that it was razed to the ground. They have been here for several months and they have travel certificates. Songmoding hung the radio transmitter on his body and carried a backpack full of plastic explosives. Jin Dachuan's equipment is exactly the same as his. Both of their radio transmitters were assembled by Black Cat himself. Several of the transmitters they obtained locally were damaged in some way, so they disassembled the available parts and assembled 2 new ones, and tested them repeatedly to ensure that they were not defective. Will malfunction. They also sneaked into the factory's phone lines and installed bugs, a task that was easy because the factory still used equipment from the early decades. They didn't eavesdrop on much information, but they determined that a small factory was indeed manufacturing some kind of biological and bacterial weapons for radicals in a certain country. Biological bacteria are not special, but some can be used as extremely effective biochemical weapons. Songmoding sneaked into the factory last night to conduct reconnaissance. When he came back, he drew a floor plan and marked the location of the germ culture room and warehouse. He and Jin Dachuan will install most of the explosives in those 2 places. Once the factory was blown up, they were to destroy their equipment in the hut and be ready to go when the other 3 returned. They will leave here in 4 groups, meet at the border and report on the performance of the mission. Crossing the border, they can return to their home country. Once discovered, they will have no official recognition. Songmoding turned off the lights, and the 3 men quietly slipped into the night. Songmoding's voice came through the radio. Trouble is coming, there is movement in the warehouse, it seems they are preparing to ship a shipment. Jin Dachuan cursed and immediately focused on the unexpected situation. Warehouses storing germs must be completely destroyed before shipment. The warehouse is usually empty at night, with only guards standing guard outside. But now there are people coming in and out, which means Songmoding and the others cannot go there to install explosives. How many goods are there? Jin Dachuan asked. About 8 or 9. I hid behind some barrels but couldn't move any of them. Their task is not to let the goods leave the warehouse. Cheetah, how are you doing there? Songmoding called softly. I'm going over there right now, boss, my explosives are ready. Jin Dachuan is going to help Songmoding, but they are still outnumbered, and moving will expose Jin Dachuan's position. If you want to help, Fox, you stay where you are. Jin Dachuan's chest was filled with anger. What was damning was that Songmoding was right. No matter what he does, it will distract Songmoding and the others, and distraction will only increase the chance of death at this critical moment. Jin Dachuan sat on a bag of rations, trying to suppress his suffocating anxiety. Time passes slowly by second by second. Jin Dachuan knew that Songmoding was currently using every cover he could find to approach the warehouse area quietly without risking as much as possible. He also knew that these radicals were preparing to leave with the germs. The time is approaching minute by minute. Jin Dachuan is striking a balance between caution and self-interest considerations. Songmoding said into the microphone. Black Cat, report your situation. I can't move a step, the truck is almost full. 2 minutes. Song Moding said that this is their last chance and it is absolutely impossible for these chemicals to reach their territory. 2 minutes. Jin Dachuan closed his eyes. Cold sweat ran down his back. He found himself mumbling to himself. 2 minutes seemed like a lifetime, and the second hand on the watch seemed motionless. Get into position. Hearing those words almost made Jin Dachuan lose his self-control. He bit his lower lip until blood flowed out. How's it going? That's right, the captain can't move elephant. How many ingredients have you packed? One material. Deadly. One ingredient is definitely not enough. Jin Dachuan listened to their conversation and knew that Song Moding was estimating how much explosives would be needed to blow up the factory. Where's the fox? Already in place but can't help. Start to retreat. Song Moding's voice was steady. Fox, put fuses on all the medicines. After a period of silence, the fox's voice came, okay. Get ready. Throw the whole bag of pills under the truck and run. I'm going to shoot for cover. I'm going to give us 5 seconds to get out of here before I push the button. It's fatal, just 6 seconds. Said the fox. Prepare. Song Moding's voice was still extremely calm. Rise. The intermittent sound of gunfire came from the radio speaker. Jin Dachuan suddenly stopped moving as if he had been shot by a bullet. His comrades are fighting battles, but he must remain motionless here. The mission requirement is that he must not fail. If they failed, he and Beaver were the last hope. They cannot be exposed. There was a sound from the loudspeaker that made the hair on the back of Jin Dachuan's neck stand up, a dull grunt mixed with the gunshots. Boss, you've been shot. Go on, prepare to evacuate. Song Moding's voice was abnormally weak. 30 seconds later, an explosion rocked the cabin, sending dust pouring from the cracks in the ceiling and the door rattling in its frame. Before the blast of the explosion had passed, Jin Dachuan had already pulled off the headphones on his head and threw them aside. He took a hammer and started smashing old but functional radio equipment, because their plan was to leave nothing usable. 30 seconds later, the radio was reduced to a pile of scrap metal. They must reach the final evacuation point according to the designated arrangements. Now, no matter how worried he is, he must leave with his people. End of this chapter. The Lucky Bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 538. Chapter 538. No suspense. Zhang Xiaoxiao barely restrained her temper all day long, until her head throbbed and her stomach was on fire. Even on the crowded bus, she still did not lose her self-control. She had been forcing herself to stay calm throughout the day, but her heart was full of frustration and rage. Now she just wanted to be alone and relax. The nightmare last night made her palpitate for a long time. Song Moding was shot and bleeding profusely, as well as being punched and kicked, which made her feel scared even if she woke up. Song Moding should be fine, but her dream is so real. It is so true that one cannot say anything to refute it. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Tang Yuan's innocent sleeping face, but his uneasiness increased. Today is the second game. She actually has no intention of competing, but her long career as a doctor has given her good self-control. Controlling oneself and not being distracted by things is what a doctor should do. When she came to the competition site, she stood in the crowded crowd, feeling extremely irritable. The second game is a quick answer competition. If you dare to look at the crowd in the chaotic scene and make the most appropriate first aid judgment, you will be awarded points for correct answers, and points will be deducted for incorrect answers. Zhang Xiaoxiao and other contestants sat in order behind a long table representing their school. There was an answering machine on the table. Zhang Sun sat next to Zhang Xiaoxiao. Zhang Xiaoxiao, what's wrong with you today? Sensitively felt that Zhang Xiaoxiao's emotions were not right. Although she tried her best to suppress herself, some emotions still leaked out. Zhang Xiaoxiao is less talkative than usual. Zhang Xiaoxiao tried his best to smile. It's okay. I probably didn't sleep well last night. Don't worry. I won't affect the progress of the game. She won't hold back. That's good. If you feel uncomfortable, you can rest. We won't lose this game. Zhang Sun and the others are confident. Although they are not the absolute number one, it is customary for their medical university to be among the top 3. Zhang Xiaoxiao nodded. It would take some time for the game to start. Zhang Xiaoxiao went to the bathroom to wash his face. His mental state was indeed not very good. She needs cold water to stimulate her. She washed her face with cold water and walked out of the bathroom, only to see Mu Feng standing outside the bathroom door. Mu Feng, who was leaning against the wall, looked at him with a somewhat enigmatic look. Senior Mu. Obviously seems to be waiting for myself. Mu Feng's meaningful smile made Zhang Xiaoxiao feel a little uncomfortable. Mu Feng seemed to have a feeling that was hard to explain clearly when we first met him. Are you okay? Zhang Xiaoxiao paused. I'm fine. Zhang Xiaoxiao, in fact, I have been wanting to tell you these days that my sister has congenital heart disease and I want to see you. Zhang Xiaoxin was moved. Student Mu, there may be a misunderstanding. I am currently in my 2nd year of college and neither Senior Mu nor Senior Mu is qualified to practice medicine naturally. It is impossible for me to be qualified. Mu Feng's attitude was very ambiguous, and he seemed to be testing himself. Zhang Xiaoxiao, weren't you the one who cured Wu Xiaocheng of the Wu family? Whatever the Wu family offers, our family will triple the price. Student Zhang, think about it. We will agree to any request. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't know why Mu Feng felt so sure that she could save her. She believed that the Wu family would not expose her. I made it very clear at the beginning. The Wu family will not betray themselves either emotionally or rationally. Mu Feng was probably deceiving himself. What is strange is that the conditions proposed by the other party are too generous. For a student who has not even graduated from her sophomore year, it is indeed a bit surprising that she dares to seek medical treatment from her now. Him has not revealed any value. It allows the other party to make such big sacrifices and concessions. Even Mr. Feng and the others are probably rich and generous with this treatment, but now they are offering such a student to themselves. Zhang Xiaoxiao doesn't believe that there is such a thing as pie in the sky. Always feel like something is going to happen. Mu Feng's eyes flickered. Zhang Xiaoxiao, think about it. You can check our family's background. This matter will actually be good for you. The specious words made Zhang Xiaoxiao's weird feeling even worse. Senior Mu, I will think about it. Zhang Xiaoxiao knew that he would not agree and that his secret would not be used by outsiders casually. Especially Mu Feng, who seemed to have ulterior motives at first sight. Return to the playing field. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't know how many people were watching her because of her arrival. Is that Zhang Xiaoxiao? That's right, it's the same Zhang Xiaoxiao who won the first place with 9 points and 5 points with Wang Huan in the first game. Oh my gosh, she doesn't look big. Yeah, I went back and checked, and I was only a sophomore, 21 years old. Are all sophomores so good now? What do you think? There were more than a dozen reporters and cameras around. This is the latest game to require full live broadcast. Zhang Xiao was so distracted that he had no idea. 5 teams of contestants lined up and took their places, and the narrator announced their names and schools. Host Feng Jiwei came on stage and announced that the 5 participating teams were all newcomers, because the 5-time defending champion 5th Medical University retired from the previous competition. 5th Medical University wants Hija the right to participate in the finals. This is the right that only the winner has. Now for all of them, defeating the 5th Medical University is their lifelong wish. There were more than 5 teams at the game. It was human nature to join in the fun, and anyone with a few minutes to spare would find an excuse to check out what was going on. Thousands of supporters from various colleges have stayed in the competition venue and refused to leave. When Feng Jiwei ranted that this was not a circus performance, many people shrugged and said, "We are just cheerleaders, why are we not even allowed to enter the stadium now, where is the spirit of the competition?" Feng Jiwei signaled everyone to be quiet before starting the competition process. "Speak out the type of puzzle." Beep. Arteriosclerosis. Beep. Dr. McCormick. Zhang Xiaoxiao said. Beep. Congenital heart disease, rheumatic heart disease, coronary heart disease, hypertensive heart disease. Beep. Zhang Xiaoxiao almost took over all the responders and didn't give the other party the slightest chance. Everyone stared at Zhang Xiaoxiao with their mouths open. "I can answer that too," a contestant muttered to himself. "Then why didn't you grab it just now?" another student asked. "Quiet!" Feng Jiwei roared. "Tertiary institutions. Bethune." Zhang Xiaoxiao, she clenched the answering machine under her palm. Having fun guessing with song moding at home and guessing correctly at this important moment are two different things. Maybe people thought she was just lucky enough to guess correctly. Who can know how much effort she put into it? Coronary arteriosclerosis. Heart stent surgery. Left leg. Paralysis of the lower limbs. Advanced stage of liver cancer. The competition scene fell into silence. The puzzles were answered one by one, and Zhang Xiaoxiao got the correct answer every time. Sometimes she barely has time to say the answer before the prompt pops up on the screen, but every time she says it in time. The team from First Medical University led the way. Even if they were not the first to ring the bell, they were able to answer the questions correctly even when the other four teams answered incorrectly. Her score is already twice that of the other four teams combined. Zhang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but want to end the game. There was a round of applause. Intense passion like a stormy sea. In front of the TV screen, a group of medical station experts and all the audience were stunned. This game is obviously a crushing game, there is no suspense. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 539. Chapter 539, Pretending to be a Snake. In the end, their school got the first overall score and entered the finals. It is very enviable for Zhang Xiaoxiao, a sophomore student, to have such a score. Of course Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't know that after today, her name would be remembered by many people. As soon as the game ended, Zhang Xiaoxiao left. Hello to no one. Zhang Xiaoxiao has been restless all day, and Zhang Xiaoxiao feels that something big may happen. She silently endured having her toes trampled by passengers in the car, and from time to time someone's elbow accidentally bumped into her ribs. Her nostrils breathed in the sour smell of sweat in the closed compartment. After finally waiting for her to get out of the car, it started to rain again. Without an umbrella, she walked a street in the rain back to her home, dripping wet. Of course she didn't bring an umbrella. The weather report said it would be sunny today. She is finally home and now she is alone, which is a blessing. The glutinous rice were at her grandparents' place, and her aunt usually wouldn't come to disturb her. She breathed a sigh of relief and started to open the door. At this point her self-control collapsed and she slammed the door with all her strength. The door frame made a thunderous noise, but this trivial act of violence did not relieve her nervousness. Everything seemed a little wrong today, something she couldn't tell. Worry came to her again. She couldn't forget the dream and began to worry about the problems at hand. Song moding could not be contacted. Song moding always called her on a single line. Now there is a barrier that prevents them from communicating. Zhang Xiaoxiao was a little angry. Although she didn't know what song moding did, she could make some guesses. The problem is that now she is very powerless, and the powerlessness of not being able to do anything makes people angry. At this time, the doorbell rang, and Zhang Xiaoxiao hurriedly ran to open the door. Jin Dachuan stood at the door. He seemed to be more tired than she was, with dark circles under his eyes and a pale complexion. He must have just shaved, and his hair is a little wet. This shows that he has taken a shower and may have changed clothes, but these cannot hide his tiredness. A kind of exhaustion that comes through in one's bones. "Brother Jin, you're here, come in quickly, it's unfortunate that you're here, Mo Ting is not at home." Zhang Xiaoxiao hurriedly called him in. She happened to be looking for him too. Jin Dachuan had an expression of relief on his face. "Thank you, I came to see you." He said it sincerely. Zhang Xiaoxiao walked into the kitchen and boiled a pot of water. Finally, she took a deep breath before walking to the living room. Jin Dachuan sat seriously on her blue sofa. Obviously, Zhang Xiaoxiao felt strange. Seriousness makes people feel out of breath. "Brother Jin, do you know what Xiao Song is doing?" she asked, half joking, half serious. Look carefully at Jin Dachuan's expression. Jin Dachuan's expression was a little cracked and his expression became more solemn. Zhang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but fell down on the chair. "You know where Song Moding is?" This is an affirmative sentence. The expression on Jin Dachuan's face said it all. There is no doubt that something happened to Song Moding. Otherwise Jin Dachuan couldn't have this expression. Zhang Xiaoxiao's heart arose again. He died. She knew she shouldn't ask this, but she couldn't help but feel scared. She even suspected that she did not say a proper goodbye to Song Moding before leaving, a formal farewell. Jin Dachuan shook his head and tried to lighten his expression. "No, he's not dead." Zhang Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief. "So what's going on, is he hurt?" "Injury is not a big deal. As long as he doesn't die, Song Moding can survive." "He's missing." Jin Dachuan didn't want to tell the news, but he had to say that Zhang Xiaoxiao would need to help them. "What, missing?" Zhang Xiaoxiao remembered that dream. It turned out to be really related to Song Moding. She should have guessed it. "Yes, we need your help." Jin Dachuan looked sad, and Zhang Xiaoxiao asked calmly. "Need my help? How can I help?" "Damn it, this matter is really difficult to handle. We've been hitting walls everywhere. It's not easy to find clues. You have a classmate named Mu Feng." Jin Dachuan's face showed tired lines, and he glanced at Zhang Xiaoxiao again in embarrassment. "Is there any relationship between Mu Feng and Song Moding's disappearance? This is so strange. As far as we know, Mu Feng was involved in a sensitive situation." "What is the sensitive situation?" Jin Dachuan looked at her with confusion. I suddenly noticed his eyes, which were clear and, strangely, sympathetic. These are a pair of gentle eyes, nothing like the eyes of the iron-blooded warrior she imagined. He cleared his throat. "It's very sensitive. Behind Mu Feng is a multinational biopharmaceutical company. In fact, this company controls a batch of biological agents. We just want to destroy these things. Song Moding disappeared after detonating it. We suspect that Song Moding was killed in the hands of Mu Feng and the others." Jin Dachuansai observed her reaction and saw a flash of suspicion in her eyes, obviously wondering whether Jin Dachuan might also be lying. She is not an innocent little girl who easily trusts others, but she is also not that good at hiding her thoughts and emotions. "I need you to help me get inside him and find out where Lao Song is and where the other people are so we can rescue him." Zhang Xiaoxiao closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her eyes were full of determination. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked the waiter to help her sit down at the best table in the restaurant calmly and elegantly. She raised her head and smiled at her companions Mu Feng and Mu Xiaocheng. When anything related to Song Moding would involve the two people in front of him, Zhang Xiaoxiao tried his best to make his smile look sincere. Her pair of black eyes as cold as the aurora became soft and warm due to her efforts to suppress them, and her dark hair was as soft and smooth as a mink. To Mu Xiaocheng, her name was Zhang Xiaoxiao, and she was quite a bit different. Gifted medical student. The information Jin Dachuan gave her showed that Mu Xiaocheng was suspicious by nature, and this fact had saved him countless times. So many that he couldn't even remember them, but if everything goes well, Zhang Xiaoxiao will see the child tonight, and it's time to enter the Mu family's villa. What an irony! She didn't need much time to prepare. Since Mu Feng came to her, he had naturally conducted an in-depth investigation of her. The odds of her success were that he would not dig too deep, and that he was eager to get something from her. Although Song Moding is in his hands, the current news is that Song Moding changed his name. As long as Mu Feng has never met Song Moding, it is completely impossible to know why Zhang Xiaoxiao agreed to cooperate with them. No one knows where Song Moding is being held. And she must get close to the Mu family and his son to get the exact news. Mu Feng gave her a smile, stood up to greet her with a contented sigh, and sat down again. Did I tell you, you look especially beautiful tonight? If Zhang Xiaoxiao wasn't familiar with Mu Feng's information, he would really be confused by Mu Feng's charming character. Unfortunately, he is a cold-blooded killer. All right. Mu Feng's father's research laboratory specializes in manufacturing biological weapons for certain countries. They don't care what the other party's purpose is, they only seek financial gain. From this point of view, he is a madman who kills people without showing any blood. She can only show weakness now. You've already said that. She responded with a soft and warm look. But thank you anyway. This kind of needing to act like a snake is really not her specialty. But now she needs to do it. End of this chapter. The Lucky Bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 540. Chapter 540 Going to the meeting alone. Mr. Mu, let's talk about your daughter's condition. When can I see her? Zhang Xiaoxiao went straight to the point. She couldn't wait any longer. Song Moding couldn't wait any longer. No one knows the current situation of Song Moding and the others. One more minute of delay will be dangerous for Song Moding and the others. It seems that Zhang is very dedicated. I was going to take you there after dinner. Mu Xiaocheng lowered his voice and said. He does not talk about Ziluo in public, and many people who know him do not know of her existence. Then, Mr. Mu, you can skip dinner. I think my patient comes first. Maybe dinner can be moved to after my patient's diagnosis. Zhang Xiaoxiao was looking for an opportunity to stay at the Mu family. Mu Xiaocheng looked at the girl in front of him with admiration. It is no exaggeration to say that she is a very beautiful girl. With a polite yet cordial smile on his face, Zhang Xiaoxiao listened to their conversation with his head tilted. At this age, it is hard not to like a girl who is young, beautiful, and not so innocent that it makes people speechless. Zhang Xiaoxiao is indeed beautiful in his youth. It is not the beauty of beauty, but the beauty of elegance. She didn't dress in attention-grabbing clothes, but she attracted attention. Perhaps because of her elegant and demure temperament and her incredible eyes, Mu Xiaocheng could still agree with his son's comments even though they were far apart. Those big eyes as dark as night can make a man look into them and forget himself. Her elegant dress was all about exquisite tailoring to highlight its charm. Her complexion was fair. He originally thought that wearing white would make her look pale, but unexpectedly it made her look pink and tender. Her figure is slender, but not skinny like many women nowadays. If he hadn't heard that this woman was very good at medical treatment and had amazing ancestral secrets, he would probably have approached this girl in another way. Men are naturally unable to refuse beautiful women. Well, I'll trouble Mr. Zhang to go there. Zhang Xiaoxiao stood up, and Mu Feng politely accompanied Zhang Xiaoxiao. Mu Xiaocheng was left behind by them. It had been a long time since he had been so interested in a woman, but that didn't mean he would be careless. If Zhang Xiaoxiu's name is not worthy of his name, Mu Xiaocheng is very pleased that he does not need to sacrifice a little beauty. Then he will sincerely look forward to a pleasant pursuit and seduction. Most women can be obtained, the difference is only in time, and he doubted that she would be different. He had long forgotten how much fun it was to be a suitor. He smiled mockingly to himself. Zhang Xiaoxiao was also an ordinary woman. When she agreed to treat Zi Luo, she had already bitten their bait. Such a trivial victory made him feel like a conqueror. Looks like I am getting old. It is impossible not to accept old age. Zhang Xiaoxiao blinked in surprise when she first saw Long Mu's villa. Fortunately, she wore glasses to cover part of her expression. Jin Dachuan should have warned her in advance, she thought absently. The asphalt driveway lined with flowers of various colors leads to the gate of the villa, and a 4-meter-high gray stone wall completely surrounds the villa. The gate slid open quietly as the car approached and closed immediately after they passed. She estimated that the villa covers an area of at least 5 acres, and the elegant garden landscaping covers most of the surrounding walls. The 2-story main house located in the center of the villa has wing rooms extending to both sides. The building material is marble with gold and red veins on a gray background. To the right, looming behind the entire row of landscaping, is a long row of single-story buildings similar to barracks. The illegal sale of a biological weapon must be very profitable. She didn't understand how rich the Mu family was before, but now she understands why so many people fawn over him. There are people standing guard at every inconspicuous place. His personal guards, they seem to distinguish themselves by their clothes. The largest number of people were wearing dark green uniform-style trousers and shirts, and they were obviously carrying pistols in their clothes behind them. If Zhang Xiaoxiao still had doubts at the beginning, what he saw now was enough to prove that Jin Dachuan was definitely right. The Mu family is not as harmless as it seems. It is impossible for a simple rich man to have such defense personnel. What's more, it's the 1980s. In this era, there are not many people who dare to show off their rich style so boldly. The Mu family dared to bring her in like this. Zhang Xiaoxiao's scalp suddenly went numb. Will he fall into the other party's trap? Thinking of the way Mu Feng chatted with him several times, why did Mu Feng say hello to him? She, Zhang Xiaoxiao, is a popular figure in school, but not enough to be liked by everyone, and her background is definitely not one that makes people flatter. At least Mu Feng doesn't need it. But Mu Feng showed interest in him from the beginning. What is the relationship between a man and a woman? Be good. Zhang Xiaoxiao definitely doesn't think that the heroine has the ability to suit both men and women, old and young. Mu Feng has absolutely no feelings for her. If Mu Feng has thoughts about her, it would be more appropriate to say that Mu Xiaocheng is that old pervert. Zhang Xiaoxiao was not an ignorant girl, so he would not be able to see the meaning of Mu Xiaocheng's evil gaze. It will only make her more fed up with Mu Xiaocheng and the Mu family. If it weren't for Song Moding's safety, Zhang Xiaoxiao would never step into Mu's house. Classmate Zhang, I will take you to see my daughter Mu Feng. You go and order the kitchen to prepare dinner. Classmate Zhang didn't eat anything just now. Mu Xiaocheng's words were definitely intended to drive away Mu Feng. Zhang Xiaoxiao pretended not to know. Mu Feng paused and took a deep look at Zhang Xiaoxiao. There was a blank pause period of about 5 seconds before Mu Feng agreed and walked away. Mu Xiaocheng nodded with satisfaction. This son was a bit pretentious sometimes. Since Zhang Xiaoxiao may be an important person to that person, the Mu family will definitely catch it. Zhang Xiaoxiao will have to give in sooner or later when he enters the Mu family. Can a woman turn the sky upside down? Zhang Xiaoxiao restrained her emotions and didn't bring them out. Now is not the time for her to get emotional. He raised his head and looked in the direction of Mu Xiaocheng, his tone impatient. Where is Mr. Mu's daughter? Mu Xiaocheng took the towel handed by the butler and wiped his hands carelessly. His already somewhat slack eyes showed a deeper smile, and his cloudy eyes concealed the intention to devour him. "Classmate Zhang, are you in such a hurry? Then I will lead the way and let's go see Zi Luo." The voice was like a snake that made people feel clammy. Zhang Xiaoxiao touched his sleeves and suppressed the goosebumps all over his body. This Mu Xiaochen makes people very uncomfortable. Observing the entire villa carefully, the wide corridors were empty. There was absolutely no possibility of any cameras at this time. You can occasionally see the shadows of security patrols in the corridor, but not many. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at his watch. Before entering the room again, the security guard patrolled every 5 minutes. Perhaps this is your opportunity. The problem is that she hasn't figured out where Mu Xiaokeng's study is yet. This room is my daughter's room, and the next door is my study. Of course, don't be too surprised when you see Ziluo. She is weak and is weaker than ordinary children. Zhang Xiaoxiao lamented that an evil person like Mu Xiaocheng could actually bring out a hint of weakness and sadness in his voice when he mentioned this Ziluo child. No matter how evil a person seems to be, he still has a loving father's heart. But what does Mu Xiaocheng mean? He actually told himself the location of his study like this. Was that intentional? Zhang Xiaoxiao felt excited. If this is the case, Mu Xiaochen may be very confident. It would be very difficult to find the whereabouts of Song Moding and others. Zhang Xiaoxiao frowned and followed Mu Xiaochen into the room. There was a little girl sitting in a wheelchair. When she heard them coming in, she turned her head and looked at them happily. End of this chapter.